Shabbos, speaking about Shabbos and Yom Tov. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Yeah, we're coming to Lag BaOmer.
116, as I said.
It has pages up. Here, switch.
She's got it.
No, that's probably my notes. I think that's probably
So, we're getting close to Lag BaOmer, so we have here a mention of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan said this in the name of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Any mitzvah that the Holy One, blessed is He, gave to the Jewish people, He gave them in public, except the mitzvah of Shabbos, which He gave to them in private. As the verse says, between me and the children of Israel it is a sign forever. So most mitzvahs, or all the mitzvahs, Hashem gave to the Jewish people in public, but this one was more of a private thing between Hashem and the Jewish people. The Gemara asks, if so, idolaters should not be punished for refusing to accept this mitzvah, since they were unaware of it. Yet we find in the Gemara elsewhere that Hashem will punish the nations that originally rejected the Torah and its commandments. This also relates to Shavuos coming up, that Hashem went around to the different nations and offered them the Torah, and they didn't accept it, and the Gemara says that there's some type of punishment for not willing to accept the Torah. But if Shabbos was more of a secret, it was done in private, why would they be punished for not accepting the Shabbos? It looks like they weren't aware of it. It's not something that was made public to everyone. The Gemara answers, Hashem did let them know about the commandments of Shabbos, therefore they will be punished for rejecting it. The verse means that He did not let them know about its reward, which is earned by those who observe it. So they did know about Shabbos. Hashem told them about the mitzvahs, but they did not know about the reward. So they could still be punished for not accepting it. They did know about Shabbos, but not about the reward of Shabbos. Another answer, or if you prefer, say that He also informed them of its reward, and therefore certainly have no claim that they were unaware of it. Shalom. Since they were informed both of the mitzvah and its reward, and when Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai that the mitzvah of Shabbos was given in private, he means that Hashem did not inform the nation. Is there enough? That's fine, yeah, you could put it there.
Okay, so that was a little confusing.
So we're trying to explain what was known to the nations and what was not known to the nations. It sounds like Shabbos was more of something private that was just between Hashem and the Jewish people. It says in the Pasuk that it's a sign just between Hashem and the Jewish people. The question is, did the nations know about Shabbos? Were they aware about Shabbos? And could we punish them for not accepting to do the mitzvah of Shabbos? So there's another Gemara that says that the non-Jewish people will be held accountable for not accepting the Shabbos. But over here we're saying that it's something that was only known to the Jewish people. So how do we put that together? So there must be something that they know and something that they don't know. So the Gemara explains what they know about. They know about the actual laws, like that you have to keep Shabbos, but they didn't know the reward for keeping Shabbos. The reward of keeping Shabbos, Hashem told only the Jewish people. That was special, unique for the Jewish people. That's one way to explain. Or another thing, this is very interesting, that Hashem might have told even the reward to the non-Jewish people, but He did not tell them about the additional soul that one receives on Shabbos. So there's something called the Neshama Yisera, an extra soul that we get on Shabbos, and that is something that Hashem only told the Jewish people. How do we know about this extra soul that we get on Shabbos? For Reb Shimon ben Lakish said, we're on page 17 in the big paragraph, where it says number 8. For Reb Shimon ben Lakish said, the Holy One, blessed is He, placed an additional soul in a person on Erev Shabbos as Shabbos begins, and is taken from him after Shabbos ends. as the verse says, Shabbos vayinafash. We say this in the Kiddush, that Hashem, on the seventh day, He rested vayinafash. Vayinafash is another expression of rest, which literally means on the seventh day, Hashem ceased and rested. But the word in Hebrew, vayinafash, could be split into two. By splitting the word vayinafash to read vay nefesh, woe for the soul. The phrase can be expounded to mean kivan sheshavas vay of the nefesh. Once the Jew has observed the entire Shabbos, woe, that soul that received at the beginning of Shabbos has been lost. This alludes to the present of the additional Shabbos soul that Hashem gave to the Jews privately.
What if a non-Jew takes on Shabbos? Does he get an extra Shabbos?
So a non-Jew is not allowed to keep Shabbos. He's not supposed to keep
he has
Shabbos.
to do one thing. Right.
He has to do one thing that he should not be keeping Shabbos. So this was something that Hashem gave. It's a special gift that Hashem gave to the Jewish people.
Brings. You go into oneness.
Yes, being united with Hashem. Now the question is, what is this extra soul? What is this Neshama Yisera that you get on Shabbos? So, if we look at footnote 8, this additional soul is a capacity to experience true rest and joy and to eat and drink extensively without becoming disgusted. This is a very simple level of Neshama Yisera. It doesn't sound very holy. It's saying that on a regular day you can't eat that much, but the fact that on Shabbos you allow yourself to eat more and enjoy, that's a Neshama Yisera. You have more space.
Sounds like an additional bria.
So that's like one level of explaining this extra soul. Rabbeinu Hanano, continuing in this footnote, explains that the purpose of everything created during the 6 days of creation is for the souls to have pleasure from them on Shabbos, and the souls expand and grow on Shabbos to accommodate this. So during the 6 days is the creation, and then on Shabbos we're enjoying what Hashem has created. And the ability to enjoy what Hashem created, this we have on Shabbos. Others, however, understand that this refers to the wisdom that can be attained on Shabbos to engage in Torah and delve into Hashem's creations. So that's a deeper level of the neshama, that it's not just that you have the ability to eat more, but you have the ability to understand more, to learn more Torah. That's another explanation. If we look at the additional references on the bottom, the shaded box, some explain that the additional soul is the rest and contentment the soul finds on Shabbos when work is forbidden. It departs when Shabbos does, and is that supposed to be goes?
When Shabbos does.
When Shabbos does, and the weekday toils and pressures resume. So that's another explanation, that during the week you're rushing and there's work and this, but then Shabbos, the rest, the fact that you're able to relax, that is the Neshama Yisera. That's the additional soul.
Thus comes the minhagim of davening Musaf on Shabbos for a yortzeit. It's an additional prayer, so people have that. That's what they do. And that's where it comes from.
That they, when they're chazan on a yortzeit, they daven also musaf as well.
They daven musaf. Specifically, if somebody in the island can daven musaf and they have a yortzeit, that's what they do.
So that's connected to the.
They can daven.
I thought the tradition was on Shabbos, yahrzeit, not a veil. Okay, never mind.
A yortzeit, yes, that's one.
A veil is don't daven, but a yahrzeit would.
Yeah.
Okay.
They also daven Myra, but not too many people.
Yes, that's an interesting idea. There's another thing that we do connected to the neshama leaving, and there's really, just on this piece over here about the extra neshama, when I was looking into it, there's really so much about it. One thing to point out, that the pasuk from which we know that there's an additional neshama is a pasuk, not the first time that Hashem spoke about Shabbos. The first time where Hashem commanded the Jewish people was by the Ten Commandments, by the Aseres HaDibros. This pasuk is a pasuk in Kisisa, speaking almost right before the Chet HaEgel, right before the Jewish people did the golden calf, Hashem tells them again about Shabbos, and over there it says that Vayinofash, that when the Shabbos leaves, Vay, it's like, where did the neshama go? We lost.
Somebody, I thought I heard the doorbell.
No, it was that's in.
We feel that the neshama left. So I made some copies over here.
Do they speak? But they speak about it during the situation with the man.
The mun, where is the?
Because you're not supposed to collect. You're not supposed to collect man on the seventh day. You'll get a double portion. But I don't know if they.
So that's a double portion of mun, but not specifically another neshama.
But they say that.
Another,
Oh, not in. Oh, I see.
not a
That's when
neshama.
they talk about neshama.
Oh, doesn't Havdalah.
that's what I was going to mention. So Havdalah is connected to that. Let me see.
One more. Go back. Yeah, one more or two more.
Right there. So, sorry, not everything is in English, but I tried to get some things in English. So, if we look closely at the psukim, so the pasuk in Kisisa says like this: "Va'ata daber el bnei Yisrael lemer," speak to the Jewish people, saying, "Acha shabsoisai tishmeru," you should keep my Shabbos. Ki oisi beini uveinechem, it is a sign between me and you. L'deirei seichem, for all generations. Ladas, to let know. Ki ani Hashem mikadishchem, I am Hashem, which is making you holy. Rashi says, Ki ois hi beini uveinechem, this is a sign between me and you. Ois gedula hi beinenu. This shows that we have a great connection between us. Shebacharti bachem, that I chose you. B'hanchili lachem es yom menuchasi lemenucha. On this day, I am giving over as an inheritance my day of rest for you, that you should rest. So this is an amazing Rashi. Shabbos is not only a day that we're resting, Hashem is giving over His menucha, His rest to us. So our rest is really an extension of Hashem's rest. That's the sign. Then the pasuk Tesvav, we jumped one pasuk. It says, "Sheishes yamim ye'asa malacha." For 6 days, work should be done. Uvayom hashvi Shabbos Shabbosain, and on the 7th day it should be Shabbos Shabbosain. It uses a double expression, a Shabbos Shabbaton. Kaidesh LaHashem, holy for Hashem. Kol ha'isa malacha b'yom haShabbos mois yumas. Whoever does work on Shabbos will be killed. So what's the reason for this double expression, Shabbos Shabbosain? Rashi explains, Menuchas margoya v'loy menuchas arai. It's translated here, denotes reposeful rest and not rest of a casual character. So there's different ways of resting. There's, you take a little rest, but you're middle of your work or middle of a regular day. But then there is a reposeful rest where you're really resting. It's not just temporary. It's not just for a certain time. It's a real menucha. It's a real rest. So one of the things that we do to because the neshama leaves, and because it's vai, because it's woe, and we're sad that the neshama leaves. So this is what Mrs. Rashkin mentioned about the besamim. By the Havdalah, what do? We smell the besamim. Because the neshama left, and there's a feeling of sadness that the neshama left, so therefore we smell the besamim to make it more happy, to appease the neshama. That's brought over here. Also in Shulchan Aruch, it says that that's the reason why we do it, trying to comfort the neshama with a good smell. Now, if we flip the page,
We're not going to read the thing about it?
I said it outside. It basically says that we make the bracha on the psamim because we're trying to appease the neshama because the neshama left. So on top of the page, this is the Rambam, and it says v'lama mevarchen al psamim b'maitzai Shabbos. Why do we make the bracha on the psamim at the end of Shabbos? Neshahanefesh do'evas liyitzias Shabbos, because the soul is pained for the leaving of Shabbos. Mesamchen Isa umiyashven Isa bereach tov. We make it happy and we appease it, we make it feel better with a good smell. So if you look closely, it doesn't say that we're trying to appease the Neshama because the Neshama left. The Neshama is sad because Shabbos leaves. So there's two separate things. There's one thing is that you're sad because a part of you left, then this extra Neshama left. And then there's being sad because Shabbos itself is leaving. So that's something to note there's a difference. The Rambam is saying not just that we're sad because our extra Neshama left, but because of the Shabbos leaving. And this brings us another perspective of what we're doing when we're making Havdalah. Where does Havdalah come from? Why do we make Havdalah at the end of Shabbos? So we say, Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kachu. We're always supposed to remember Shabbos. When do we remember Shabbos? So the Rambam tells us we remember Shabbos twice, in the beginning of Shabbos and the end of Shabbos. We're trying to remember Shabbos both, in the beginning and the end. But now, how are you supposed to remember Shabbos at the end when it's leaving, when it's gone, when Shabbos is coming? You're remembering it now. It's starting, but when it's leaving at the end, you're more of it's a little bit of a sad note. Like now it's the end of Shabbos. So in order to leave off on a happy note, we do B'samim. That you're remembering Shabbos, but you're not leaving and you're crying at the end, because we're trying to remember Shabbos and carry it into the week. We want to finish off on a happy note. And this is an amazing thing. What Rashi says, the next thing where it says, the kolza tiknu, all of this was instituted, kidei sheyehei zikaron Shabbos b'libay. Shabbos should be remembered in your heart. The yehei sameach af betzeisa. You should be happy even when it's leaving. So Havdalah is not only it's not just saying like goodbye Shabbos is over, now we could go back to our work, to the phones or whatever we were doing. Havdalah is saying we're trying to carry the message of Shabbos into the week. How are you going to carry Shabbos into the week if your neshama just left and you're not feeling so good? So we want to do something after Shabbos that is connected with simcha, and a good smell brings a person more happiness. And then you're going to remember that Havdalah throughout the week. You're going to remember, I was in a happy mood when I made Havdalah. That was a good besamim, a good smell. And that will continue throughout the week. Zachar, you'll remember that till the next Shabbos.
The interesting thing is the reach nachoach, the good smell, is the one thing that was not, one sensation that was not a sense that was included in the Eitz Hadas, the sin of the Eitz Hadas. The other senses were involved, but smell was not.
Yeah, that's interesting. Smell is a very spiritual sense, more than the other ones, more than eating and drinking and touch.
The sense of smell is very, very strong. You'll remember smell more than you'll remember any other of the senses.
There are a lot of studies.
Interesting. So that's connected to memory. Like it says, Zikaron Shabbos, if you want to remember it, you remember that smell. I didn't know that. So that's an interesting. Also, it says sometimes when someone faints and you need to revive them, if you give them a strong smell, you bring them back. So that shows that it's connected deeply to the neshama. It's able to bring back, to revive it. So that's kind of the neshama leaves when Shabbos, that extra neshama leaves, and then you revive it with that besamim. Now here comes an interesting question. What about when Yom Tov is after Shabbos? Do we do besamim?
No.
If Yom Tov is right after Shabbos,
No.
we don't do besamim. And the question is why? If the extra neshama left, why don't we make besamim from Shabbos to Yom Tov? So let's see. So it's going to be a discussion. It's brought in Psachim, where it says Gufa Yom Tov Shechaliyis Achar Shabbos. The Gemara discusses a Yom Tov which is after Shabbos. Rav Amar Yakne Ushmol Amar Yinhak.
Interesting. I just asked a Shiloh on that.
Yeah.
See what
Okay.
Specific question.
Very interesting. So we know that there's different brachos that we make. There's Havdalah, but then there's also Kiddush that you have to make because you're going into Yom Tov. So Yakna is a simon. It's a sign for yayin, make the bracha on the wine. And then there's kiddush, making kiddush. Nun is the ner, the candle. And then there's havdalah. Shmuel says it's a different order. It's not yakna, it's yinhak. He says you should do yayin, the wine, then the bracha on the candle, then havdalah, then kiddush. But
Right from the Gemara in Shabbos.
what?
It's right from the Gemara in Shabbos.
It could be in Shabbos. This is from Psachim. Maybe it says it in Shabbos also. So they ask, what about besamim? It says yayin, kiddush, ner, havdalah, but there's no besamim.
So what's the besamim?
The besamim is the smell, the fragrance that we have after Shabbos. I'd say besamim.
Yeah.
So we're saying the reason why we have that smell after Shabbos is because the neshama left. We're trying to make it happy again with a good smell. So this we actually have in English over here. The question arises on the second page as to whether a Jew who received the extra soul on Yom Tov. The Gemara discusses the order for Havdalah and Kiddush on a Yom Tov that begins and the end of Shabbos. Everyone agrees that we do not say the blessings on spices. So we have here the Rashbam. The Rashbam explains that this is because we receive an extra soul on Yom Tov as well as on Shabbos. This opinion, the Rashbam says that there is an additional soul on Yom Tov. So therefore, accordingly, there's no need to smell spices since their purpose is to alleviate a person's distress at the end of Shabbos when he loses extra soul. And when Yom Tov falls on the end of Shabbos, extra soul remains. So he says we don't need to because there's an extra soul on Yom Tov.
But at the end of the Yom Tov, then you may.
That's Taisvus's question. So then, if there's an additional soul on Yom Tov, why after Yom Tov don't you do besamim?
Right?
This is Taisvus's question. You have the same question. Taisvus.
So, I think it's because you have Shabbos and then you have Yom Tov, and then you have Chol. Whereas Shabbos, the Chol is such a drop that you need a cushion, as it were, the Reach Nakach to, soften the blow, as it were. But you take a step down from Shabbos to Yom Tov, it's a small step. And then the step from Yom Tov to Chol is not as big a step as from Shabbos to Chol. So in both cases, you've got a softer landing, kind of.
I see what you're saying. But if you have an additional soul on Yom Tov as well, so then is it really a step down? That's the question. He's saying that's the reason.
Lesser level.
So then maybe you should need besamim to go from Shabbos to Yom Tov. If it's a lower level, then
the soul kind of slips out the back door. The soul does, what do they call it? An Irish exit?
No, it's an Irish goodbye.
An Irish goodbye?
You
just slip out, yeah.
this is an extra
soul does a
soul
little
that
Irish
Hashem
goodbye.
gives to us on Shabbos.
Everyone's getting an extra soul on Shabbos.
Every Shabbos we get an extra
But
soul.
not on
But the Rashbam says we get it on Yom Tov. The Rashbam says we do get an additional soul on Yom Tov. But Tosfos asks, why don't we do besamim after Yom Tov if we have an additional soul?
And how does the Rashbam answer that?
One second. So let's see what Tosfos is going to say. Yeah, Tosfos asks, where the paragraph that starts Tosfos. Tosfos asks a very strong question on the Rashbam's opinion. He notes the law that when we say Havdalah after regular Yom Tov, the sages did not decree that we say a blessing on spices. They conclude that evidently the reason for this is that a person does not receive an extra soul on Yom Tov. Tosfos argues with the Rashbam. He says, no, that we don't get an extra soul on Yom Tov. And therefore he does not need to smell spices at the end of Yom Tov. Why then does he not smell spices at the end of Shabbos that falls on Yom Tov if he does indeed lose the extra soul? Tosfos explained that the meal that we eat on the night of Yom Tov alleviates our distress in place of the spices.
It's kind of like what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. Hence, sages did not include spice as part of the Havdalah when Yom Tov falls on the end of Shabbos. So we have here an argument between the Rashbam and Tosfos whether we have an additional soul on Yom Tov. According to the Rashbam that there is an additional soul, we have this question, why don't we do besamim at the end of Yom Tov?
I wonder if the spices in your cooking are for the Yom Tov meal. Spice.
Thing is that you can't really make a bracha on some of those things. No, like to make Right, so I don't know if that would work.
You get the aroma, but not the blessing. That's what I meant.
Right. So let's think a little bit. What's the argument over here? They're not saying it's hard to speak about neshama. Like how much do we understand? But what is this argument? Is there an extra soul on Yom Tov or not? What's the discussion over here? So on Yom Tov, you're allowed to do certain work. You're allowed to do things which are related to food, to preparing food. So it's not a complete rest. One of the explanations of the addition of the extra neshama is that now you're resting fully, like we brought from the first Rashi, that it's not just a temporary rest. What if someone rests during the week? He decides to pick Tuesday as a Shabbos. Would that be a rest? Would that feel like this, like Shabbos? You ever try doing it? Tuesday, I'm not going to turn on my phone. I'm not going to turn on any lights. Would that work? What?
Which goes back.
Day of the week.
Which goes back to a question I had, which was, do the Christians and the Muslims get a reward for their days of rest, for the Lord's Day on Sunday and for the Friday that the Muslims take off? Do they get merit for that?
Why would they get the
Because it's
merit?
just like you said, it's a day of rest. It's not Shabbos, but do they get credit for, like you say, you try to do it during the middle of the week?
So I was trying to say that it actually doesn't work, because even if you would do a different day of rest during the week, it wouldn't be the same as Shabbos. Because Shabbos is something, it's not just that we are deciding to rest, we are resting on Hashem's day of rest. It's a very different type of thing. It's not just something that people decided that we're going to take a rest today.
So that goes to a different Gemara. Sorry for interrupting, but there's a whole Gemara about what happens if you're lost or shipwrecked or something and you try to keep Shabbos and you're keeping it on the wrong day.
So that's an interesting thing, because then it says you pick one day of the week,
Right.
and then
And you get credit for it.
That's true, but that's because you're in a desperate situation.
Right.
You're not.
So these other nations have the choice. Well, they have a choice of resting on Shabbos, but then they don't get any merit for resting on Shabbos because they rejected it. So they do rest on another day. They don't get any merit for that either. But the Jew gets a merit for it even if he chooses the wrong day.
Their
But he's
merits
not
come from
choosing
the
because
Sheva B'nai
he's not
Noach.
intent-
That's,
Oh,
their
but he-
merits come from Sheva B'nai
Yeah,
Noach.
they're not
But
really
he's not
supposed to
intending
keep a
to
day
choose
of
that.
rest. They're not really supposed to make a different day of rest
No, I'm
other
saying
than
Sheva
Shabbos.
B'nai Noach.
That's the
Lord's
reward
Noach.
that
That's
they,
the reward.
yeah.
That's what they get
But
the
Shabbos
reward.
is not part of this Sheva
Correct.
mitzvah, right?
Right.
It's not.
I remember
Correct.
you having that discussion with somebody about that Sunday was not the day of rest. because,
Correct.
You know, the Hashem
Sunday.
worked.
Yeah, anyone, if they call the Sabbath, you can correct them and say, no, your people say it's the Lord's Day, it's not the Sabbath.
She's referring to somebody who came in here,
Uh-huh.
who was of a different faith, and was telling me that Sunday was the day of rest.
Right.
And you
So-
said, go ahead, tell me the second, it's interesting, I always think.
It wasn't- It's not our day of rest.
Right.
Right.
And they
David
even
God
say,
chose.
they even say it's not the Sabbath, they say the Sabbath no longer applies and we celebrate the Lord's Day, they use that term.
So just to explain this difference between whether on Yom Tov there is an extra neshama or not. So Rashi said, we explained before, Rashi said something very simple, that the fact that on Shabbos you have the space in your stomach or the space in your brain to be able to eat more, that itself is called the extra neshama. So on Yom Tov, do you have that? Do you have space for more food on Yom Tov?
Ask anybody on Pesach.
Exactly, we just had it. We had Yom Tov then following Shabbos. So if the neshama yisera, if the extra neshama is about having space for more food, then Yom Tov, there is also that extra neshama. But if the neshama yisera is about more rest, Yom Tov is not as restful as Shabbos. So the way you explain what the extra neshama is would make the difference whether you have that on Yom Tov. If the extra neshama is more space for food, more space for enjoyment, Yom Tov is also enjoyable. Yom Tov, you're also supposed to have good food. But if the extra neshama is about fully resting, then Yom Tov is not as restful. So that could explain the difference of opinions whether on Yom Tov there is an extra neshama or not.
You're making me think back to lesson 1, where we discussed whether the merit of Shabbos was the enjoyment. Do you remember? What was it we learned in lesson 1? The first lesson we taught?
I don't remember. Maybe you can remind me.
It was about the the Rav who was dressing down his students for rushing home
Uh-huh.
to make Shabbos, was it?
It was Yom
Oh,
Tov.
yeah.
They were in a class.
To make Yom
And
Tov,
some left
that they should stay.
relatively
Yes,
quickly
yes.
after that.
Yeah.
So this was the discussion. What should they be doing? Should they be enjoying the Yom Tov, or should
Was
they
it the
be
enjoyment
or
was it-
learning?
Or learning, so yeah,
Yes.
so,
And we mentioned also that the other opinion is that the extra neshama is the ability to be able to learn more. So that ties in whether the extra neshama is to be able to eat more or to be able to
exactly, so I thought.
to learn more.
Learning is enjoyment.
Yeah. But some people enjoy eating. So that was the whole discussion, that there was, I forgot which rabbi, he got upset at his students that they left, this rabbi got upset at the students that they left his class to enjoy their meals. So there was a whole discussion over there. What it meant. So this was a discussion about Yom Tov that's after Shabbos. Now, this is all, we know in Torah there's many different dimensions and different levels. So the explanations that we're bringing over here, whether you have more space for eating, more space for learning, that's on one level. In the Zohar and Kabbalah, it actually says that there's a different level of neshama that you get on Shabbos. It's not just like your neshama expands and you have space, you have more space for food or more space for understanding. You actually get a different level of neshama on Shabbos. So to understand everything in Kabbalah, that's another thing, but the basic idea is we know that there's 10 spheros, and the last one is Malchus, the one above that is Yesod. So usually it's explained that during the week our neshama is connected to the level of Malchus, and on Shabbos we get an addition from the level of Yesod. And we have here something from the Zohar, and he calls that Ruach HaKodesh, that on Shabbos we get this level of Ruach HaKodesh, and this is something that the tzaddikim is going to rest on the tzaddikim when Mashiach comes. And this is a special Ruach, a special spirit that comes onto us on Shabbos.
Let me just, let's get clarity on that. So we're talking about the diagram of the spheros.
Yeah.
And Malchus is the bottom, is the one that connects heaven to earth, right? Is the last step?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So,
Malchus goes through everything. From
So in each world there's 10 levels, and Malchus is the last one of the highest level, which would be right before the beginning of the next world, or
the physical world.
between
The
each
next world
world.
on top of the physical world below.
There-
It's the interface, right?
So there, in general, there's 4 worlds in Kabbalah, and we say in davening in Asher actually, Malchuscha, Malchus Kol Olamim. Your Malchus is the Malchus of every world, because in each world there is the last level of that world, and that the last level of the highest world is the beginning of the next world. That would connect the higher world with the lower.
so that's
So
Malchus
we have
going through.
So
to
that's
the
going
physical
through.
world, and then the closest we can come in understanding is to understanding Malchus, but on Shabbos we get a taste of the next level up.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'm trying
It's
to do.
interesting because Yosef Atzadik is
Yesod.
Yosef Atzadik is Yesod, but he is, I have to be careful how I word this, but he is a form of Malchus, but not, you know what I mean? So we have Mashiach ben,
Yes.
yes, you know what I'm saying? He has the power of Malchus as invested in him, but Malchus is Yehuda.
At the same time, Yosef was also a melech. He was
Yes,
also
so
a king.
It's he has both.
Yes.
He has both, but Yesod is his dominant.
Yes. We're saying an extra neshama. It's saying that you have both. On Shabbos you have the malchus level and you have the yesod. So Yosef combined both,
Yosef
I guess.
combines both.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, a little bit of remez here, something very interesting. This is from the Yalkut Reuveni.
Yosef is the only king who was a king of both the Jews and the non-Jews.
Shlomo had a big influence. Okay,
Yeah,
it was
but he
different.
didn't rule.
He didn't
over
rule
them. Yosef ruled.
over non-Jews as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something
That's what that
interesting. This is something interesting from the Yalkut Reuveni. There's a mitzvah that you're supposed to pay your worker on the same day that he did the job. And the words in the pasuk describing that mitzvah, it says, "B'yoymai titein tzacharei." On the day he should be given his payment. If you take the Rosh Tevis, I highlighted it over here. B'yoymai titein tzacharei is Shabbos.
Oh, wait, back up the truck, say that again?
There's the mitzvah to pay the worker on the same day that he did the job.
Right.
And the words that the pasuk uses for that is biyomo, on the same day, titein, you should give, sachara, his reward.
Okay.
So the Rosh Tevis, the first letter of each of those three words is Shabbos, beis, biyomo, taf, titein, and schar is the shin. It's
So
a little bit out of
backwards.
order. Yeah.
They're out of order.
It's out of order, but it's there. So what is this teaching us here? So he says a very interesting thing, that you might think that this additional neshama is only on Shabbos. But the truth is that in the middle of the week, if you sit down and you learn Torah, it says even during the week we could get this additional neshama. This is an interesting idea.
When you sit down to learn Torah.
When you sit down and learn Torah,
By yourself.
by yourself, especially when learning
No,
together.
if you learn-
Here we are.
You know what I mean? Well, I just, I wanted to, yeah.
What?
We certainly,
If you learn by yourself, and then if you learn with the Harusa.
It says that it
you
changes.
certainly
It
get a taste of
changes.
the Yesod when you learn Torah.
Yeah.
Because your head goes into the spiritual plane and you start making these connections and you start, experiencing a bit of that ecstasy.
Right.
And that's definitely beyond the physical, it's definitely beyond just the intellectual. There becomes, you get a bit of ecstasy from it, and that takes you into the Yesod.
There are gallows, if you're studying Torah and really studying it, even if you're by yourself,
Sounds
the
with you.
the
Shekhinah
Shekhinah is there.
is
Yeah.
there.
And
So
especially-
there you go, you're raising your levels with the,
Yeah.
Ecstasy is not the word I'm looking for, but you get the idea.
Elevation, all the
Elevation,
words,
yeah.
yeah. And in Pirkei Avos it adds that the more people that you study with, the level of the Shekhinah, it goes higher and higher. So now we're learning together over here. And he says a powerful thing, Ki hatalmid chacham b'mei hachoil. It says someone who studies Torah, a talmid chacham, in the weekday, yesh lo hanefesh yesh lama aretz b'Shabbos. He has the same soul that someone who does not study Torah on Shabbos, which means on Shabbos, even if you don't study Torah, you get this additional neshama. During the week, to get this additional neshama and this special feeling, it has to come through studying Torah. So the pasuk says you have to pay the worker on the same day, which means if you're learning Torah on a regular day, Hashem has to give you that reward on every day. And that day, the Rosh Tevis is Shabbos. It's trying to tell us that we're able to get Shabbos on any day, because whatever day that we're working, that we're learning Torah, Hashem should give us that reward and that feeling of Shabbos even during the week.
Yeah, it's fascinating. They don't have a Yid learns Torah all during the week. Really steins. Then on Shabbos, he can sleep a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it says in Halacha, that you
Exactly.
could sleep a little bit more if you study. Yeah.
But if he doesn't, and he learns all day on Shabbos, he makes up for the week. In other words, there's a give and take there.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I believe, I
It's
believe
interesting
that,
because in relation to that, if someone toils and breaks their teeth all week long in studying, on Shabbos, if he continues that, if it's like a kollel guy, to him it would seem like he's still working.
Right. That's why it says in Halacha that someone who's learning Torah and working very hard the whole week, she should rest a little bit, like he could wake up a little
So
bit
that
later
goes
on
back to the
Shabbos.
original sage's idea that the Shabbat, the Neshama Seirah,
Is the rest.
is the rest and
Is
the
the
eating and the
rest.
drinking.
Yes.
I like to think it's just sitting around with friends, but
Uh-huh. Okay, could add that
'cause
another
that's
thing.
that's real repose. Slacking off is one thing, but sitting around, singing songs or playing a game of war with the kids or that kind of some board games or just having a conversation, enjoying a walk. Those things seem physical, but there's a real relaxation and rest to that.
the question is qualitatively, what is learning all week? Quality versus quantity or whatever. But anyway, continue. That's
Yes.
just another.
Okay, so a little bit more of some remez, some Rashi Tevis over here. So now from the Balaturim, how could we... So the Balaturim were It's the second to last paragraph. It says, Uvayom hashvi shavas vayinafash. That's the words that originally the Gemara said we learned this additional Neshama. If you take not the Rosh Tevis, not the beginning of each word, but the end of each word, Uvayom hashvi shavas vayinafash, this is called the Soife Tevis. The end of the word is Shtayim. Why two? Because on Shabbos we get two nefashas. We don't have just one, we have two.
So,
Two souls. Valkain pei de vayinafash kfulam shum beis nefashas. This I don't understand. He says that the pay is double. I'm not sure what he means. That the pay, the letter pay in the word vayinafash, it's double because of the two nefashas. If someone has an explanation, be happy to. I'm not sure.
Tivos Shtayim, Nefashos Yesh L'Adam Shabbos, V'al Kain
Pay the vayinafash. He says
V'Nafash
kefula
Kufula
mishum beis nefashas. He says the pay of the word vayinafash is double. I'm not sure what he means. Okay, then gematria of the word vayinafash.
Oh, maybe he needs it for the Gematria.
Is elu shebegehenim. Even those who are in Gehenim also takes the rest. We know that on Shabbos the fire of Gehenim stops.
He needs to double the pay to make the Gematria work, maybe.
I didn't do the gematria, but you could try. I don't know if you need a double pay, but also where would you get another pay? Like how would you be able to do?
If you,
Why would you be able to do that?
if you take the word by nefesh,
Yeah.
it's gematria without the pay is 366. 366 translates, if you go by the rule of gematria, you can take off 1, 365, now you have the solar calendar. If you take that and you say pay is double, that's the double neshama, the neshama yisera and the neshama.
What's the number with two pays?
The number with two pays is another 160.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you take it away, if you take the concept of a year,
366,
every day of the year, and double the pay, that's two neshamas.
That's what?
That's two
Two
neshamas.
neshamas.
With two pays, the number is 526, Dorian says.
Right, but I'm taking the two pays without it's 160 separately. I don't know how that would tie in. I'm just trying the two pays with the number 365.
Single, double, triple pay.
Interesting. It's very close. 366, 365. And I was going to make a little remez. That's the solar. It's the soul, but that's not a.
You can go on and on with
the
it.
solar year. Then he says, if you take the three words, hashvi, shavas, vayinafash, those three words together, begematria, the kivan shehu Shabbos of the nefesh. Once it's the end of Shabbos, then the neshama leaves. That's exactly our Gemara, but he finds it in the pasuk that hashvi, shavas, vayinafash is the gematria of saying that once the Shabbos leaves, the neshama leaves as well. One more thing, and this is really fascinating. We say on Kabbalah Shabbos, we say Mizmar LeDavid Havel Hashem B'nei Elim. We say that before Lechadoidi. And this is from the Shalah. Also, it's kind of Kabbalah.
Who's the Shalom?
The Shalah is Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz. And
I'm going to make more.
This Rabbi Horowitz says that on Shabbos the extra neshama comes from Hevel and Cain, from the sons of Adam Arisha, Hevel and Cain. He says some people get from Hevel, some people get from Cain, and he says that there's a hint to this every Shabbos when we say Havu Lashem B'nei Elim. If you take the
It's hidden in there.
it's hidden in there. Havu, it's a hey. La Hashem, Lamed, B'nei, that's Hevel.
Yeah.
That's Hevel. And then we say in the same kapitel, in the same psalm, it says Hishtachavu La Hashem Behadras. That's again Hey Lamed Beis. And then another pasuk in that same kapitel, it says Koil Hashem Choitzev. If you take the end of those letters, the Koil has the Lamed, the end of Hashem's name is a Hey, and then Choitzev finishes with a Beis, that's again Hevel. So you have 3 times the word Hevel hinted in that kapitel. Then where do we find Kayin? After L'chadaydi, we say Hashem Malach Geus Lavish, that small capital over there. And part of that pasuk we say Nasu Naharis Hashem Nasu. And here they put together a beginning of the words and a gematria. Nasu, the first letter is a nun, so that's 50. Neharis, that's another nun, that's 50. Hashem, the first letter is a yud, so that's 10, so that's 110. And then Nasu, again, that's another 50, so that's 160. And Kayin is kuf, 100. Yud and nun is 160. Then you look a little bit more in that capital and it says Kailam Yisu Naharais. That's again Kayin.
Where's that translated?
It's talking about the waters, the mighty waters. It says that however strong Mikhaelis, Ma'im Rabin, the strong waters, but Hashem is much more powerful.
Right.
And over there it says Mikhaelis, yeah. And then at the end we say Na'ava Kaidesh Hashem La'irach Yamim. That's also at the end of that verse, that capital, and it says Na'ava, that's a nun, Kuf, Kaidesh, Yud of Hashem's name. That's again Kayin. He's basically saying that in two things that we say in Kabbalah Shabbos, we have hints of Hevel and Kayin. And he says that the additional neshama that we get, some get from the level of Hevel and some get from the level of Kayin. And we mention both in the Kabbalah Shabbos.
That combines with the nefashos. The double pay is 160.
Wow, double pay is 160. So that's Kayin.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So it ties right in.
Ties right in. All right, I think we'll make a little pause over here. There's more.
Well, we're all descended from Cain, but Havel had the sacrifice that was accepted, and so he was on a higher level. Huh?
Not descended from Cain.
Yeah, Cain was the one who survived. Havel was murdered.
No, but Adam had.
There's
Okay,
Shase.
Cain is a whole other ballgame. We're
Right.
not from that.
All right,
It
never
is,
mind.
and just something interesting. This
But Havel made the sacrifice that was accepted. That's
Yeah.
what I was trying to get at. And so when you accept Shabbos and Hashem, recognizes the higher level, it's because of the level of Havel's sacrifice. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, just one small thing that here we're talking about the neshama spiritual level. I don't remember who it was about, but I remember reading that there was some great tzaddik or rebbe that on Shabbos he was actually like a head taller. He was actually taller than he was during the week, and this has to do with the extra neshama. And this affected him even physically, that he was taller, bigger. That was
That's from schlepping home. So all week long.
and.
Long picture of the week, so straight on Shabbos.
Yeah, and on the same note, there was a doctor. This was brought in like a mimer, that there was a doctor that tested that the pulse of a Jewish person on Shabbos is different than it's on the week. That there's yeah. So Shabbos has a physical effect as well on the person. Shekayach. Thank you for joining.
Is everybody here going to be here